All right, guys, let's kick off. And we have with us Sean Morrison, who's the president of OREA, and we have Tim Hudak, who is the CEO of OREA. And then we also have Brian Santos, who we just said was the our regional Southwestern region representative on the OREA board of directors. So we have a lot of information to go through. And to Tim and Sean and Brian, we do record these and then we share them with our membership after the fact. So if they can't tune in this morning, probably because they're in another Zoom meeting, they'll be able to watch it down the road. Okay.
Sounds good.
So I'll just turn it over to you guys. I believe you have a bit of a presentation that we can go through, and then we'll open it up to questions for everybody. Just as a reminder, most people have done this with me a couple times. So just use your little raise hand option, which is under the participants tab. Or if you're a little shy and you want to ask a question, you can also enter it into the chat field. Okay. So I'll pass it over. Go ahead, guys.
Thanks very much, Rose, and thank you to everybody for joining us here today on this webinar. Before we get started, as Rose said, we do have a short presentation for you, kind of giving you an update on what OREA has been up to throughout COVID-19 and what we're doing in the future to assist you as we move forward back to whatever our new normal is going to be. Now, before I throw it over to Tim for remarks and to start our presentation, I'd like to ask our provincial director from Southern Ontario, Mr. Brian Santos, for a couple of words to start us off.
Cool. Well, thanks, guys, for having us here. I really do appreciate it. I see a lot of familiar faces in Zoom chat, but those that don't know me, I'm Brian. I'm just down the road in Kitchener-Waterloo, so not very far from Brantford. I've always been really impressed with your real estate association. I think you guys really punch above your weight. You've got some phenomenal leadership there. And yeah, even like this Zoom town hall you guys are doing, I think this is a wonderful idea. It's a great example of engagement, and engaged membership makes a stronger association. So yeah, thanks for doing this. This is awesome.
Excellent, thank you, and thank you for joining us, Brian. Tim, if you want to say a couple of words, and then we'll move into the presentation.
Yeah, you bet, Sean and Rose and all the friends from Brantford Brant. Great to see you guys again. Wish we could be there, and hopefully we'll be back soon because you always treat us very well. You run a fantastic board, and Felicia, my counterpart, again, congratulations on the new exciting opportunity for you and the great work you've done since taking on the EO title officially. So I'm happy, Sean, to boot up the presentation that you and I can then walk through.
Absolutely.
So let me see if I can grab this. There we go. Now I'm back. So this is where Sean and Brian entertain the crowd while I go through my
Yeah, well, this presentation's actually pretty good. Looking forward to you guys seeing it. Like, as your association's been working really, really hard, OREA's been working really, really hard. And I'm pretty impressed with all the things they've been doing behind the scenes. So hopefully this gives you a taste of, yeah, the added things that they're doing for our members. Tim said it a while ago, but I really do like the line. You know, we were saving for a rainy day, and right now it's pouring. So instead of you know, cutting back on things, you know, the board of directors has decided to add more value for our members, because you know, now's the time really to look out for people. So yeah, I'm pretty excited over the things that you know, that we're launching. Some things are already there, and some things are coming down the pipeline, which will hopefully make you know, buying and selling real estate here in Ontario a lot easier.
No, it's very well said, Brian. It's sorry, go ahead, Tim.
No, I'll follow you. Go right ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say it was well said by Brian, and our first priority at OREA has always been and always will be our members, and keeping them safe and providing the best tools and advice that we can going forward through this COVID-19 pandemic. So I see you've got the slides back up, so I'll turn it back over to you.
Super. Well, just like the The board in Brantford has the back of their members locally. So Brian Santos, Sean Morrison, and the OREA board and my team have your back. We want to make sure that we are there for you through this crisis. We will get through it together, but we'll be by your side when we emerge to a better time. But in the meantime, we're going to report on what we are doing for your 30 cents a day or $110 a year membership dues during the COVID crisis, how we have your back. And then Sean will walk through some guidance that we put out fresh yesterday. Now that the province is in what's called stage 1 of Premier Ford's reopening plan. You're seeing, I know in Brantford, more people interested in the market. So how do we conduct ourselves as professionals in the stage 1 reopening plan? So right from the beginning, your health and safety and that of your clients was our #1 priority. As Sean, as our president, came out fast, strong, and clear. I think probably the first one in Canada around guidance for our members in the pandemic when the state of emergency was declared by Premier Ford. Houses to be shut down as a risk to public safety. I know you guys did that as well in Brantford, so thank you for that. I think we portrayed very well that realtors were there for the benefit of Ontarians, looking out for their public health and safety, and that we could do business as usual once we got through this crisis together. That really helped us too, because we lobbied for essential services with the province, that real estate transactions take place, but essential transactions only, that realtors would conduct themselves as professionals. And many other states and provinces not declared essential services. Realtors were left successful in Ontario. A big part of that was because of the way we were conducting ourselves by putting the general welfare of Ontario ahead of business as usual. But again, these were transactions that were to be essential only. Somebody had already bought a home and had to sell theirs to meet their financing obligations, a death, a divorce, a new job, and counsel other activity to take place when things got back to better footing. So you would have increase in COVID cases in Ontario, that upwardly sharp dark blue line, and the drop of real estate transactions. I know Brantford would have seen a very similar reduction if you've charted it out, just because of human nature, human activity. People stayed home, they weren't interested in transactions, and that's what happened. And across the province, here's some boards, very similar pattern in the drop in real estate activity. Transactions here, the blue, April 2019, down to yellow, April 2020. I suspect you guys are in a similar neighborhood about the big drop there, April to April. But at the same time, prices really didn't come off too much. I think largely because it was a small number of transactions, about an equal number of buyers and sellers. So a small decline in prices March to April of this year. As you know, January through March is looking like a pretty solid year until COVID hit. So a slight decrease in prices, but we shouldn't draw any conclusions from that because of the extraordinary circumstances and the small sample size. Okay, here's what's happening now in the market. I didn't look at the Brant board particularly, but I bet it's a similar pattern, almost a U. So orange being showings in 2020 relative to the navy showings of 2019, same time. Big drop there in mid-late March, bottomed out early April, and now it's almost like a U shape with more people, I guess, I don't want to say more comfortable, but wanting to do real estate transactions in an environment of common sense and good judgment for their health and safety. So as they see realtors that are using strong safety measures, they're coming back with interest in the marketplace, as you can see from the orange line as we hit to the end of May. So I'm going to turn over to Sean now to talk about our We Have Your Back COVID-19 relief plan. Sean?
Thanks very much, Tim. Yeah, very proud of the board of directors and their quick action on this, putting almost $1.9 million in support for realtors and the communities that they serve across the board. So this is a little bit about what OREA has been doing to date. I'm not going to pause too long on this slide because we do explain it throughout the rest of the presentation. But just to give you an idea of what we have done, there's been a lot of lobbying of the government to make sure that realtors are included in all of the benefits that are available out there. We've made sure that we've delivered webinars to you across the board, and we've been doing a lot of media and compiling of the information on our OREA COVID-19 site. So what's next in OREA's COVID plan? This is a plan of what's in real estate terms coming soon. for realtors across Ontario. And again, we're going to get into this a little bit more during the presentation, so I won't pause too long on this slide. But just to say that the OREA Board of Directors is always thinking of ways that we can assist our members across the province during this difficult time. So as many of you have known and probably visited, OREA has a COVID-19 information hub for you, putting all of the frequently asked questions, government programs, updates on our college, member info, and latest public health news, as well as all of our press releases that affect members to date on oreacovid19info.com. So please go check that out if you haven't already. One of the things that you'll see on there and on our orea.com website is that we developed a number of state of emergency clauses to help not just with this pandemic, but with any state of emergency that affects real estate across Ontario. Things like unable to complete the transaction, key drops, electronic signature consent, video conferencing, no buyer inspection, or subject to a personal buyer inspection during a state of emergency. So you can check those out again at orea.com in the standard forms section. So to date, we've done a lot of webinars, and they've been quite successful, and I'm sure many of you have attended some of them. So on the left here, you'll see that we have a few more coming up. And basically, over the time, we've been concentrating on how to deal with your business and how to deal in general with the state of emergency that we're in. Things like our state of emergency clauses, how to cope with mental health and well-being during these times. I know this affects many of us being isolated at home by ourselves, or perhaps being isolated with our spouse. Maybe that's affecting us as well, so, or children. But, you know, we have done a few of these webinars on mental health, and we do have some additional tools coming up in the presentation that you'll see in regards to mental health and well-being. We've also done government support service programs as a webinar, and that one was very well attended, kind of giving you the update on how you can apply for these programs and what you need to apply for those programs. So, you know, definitely check that one out if you didn't see it. All these webinars are recorded. And then we've got a whole series on tech tools and market insights to face our new reality. So there's a lot of good information there. So go to orea.com and check out the webinars. So one of the things that we've also done is we recognize that a lot of people, especially you know, people like Rose in Brantford, who have gone through different stages in their real estate career, want to sharpen their leadership skills across the province. So many of you may work outside of organized real estate on charitable boards or school boards as well. So if you're looking to kind of sharpen your skills in regards to leadership, we've offered our L200 course, Becoming a Leader, for free for a limited time. I think it's until November. It's about 90 minutes to complete. And again, you can go on our OREA COVID-19 info site for that, and as well on orea.com. And we would advise anybody that wants to work on their leadership skills to sign in and check that out. It's free again until November. So this is part of our research that we have commissioned through Nanos Research. We're starting to track consumer attitudes towards real estate and COVID-19 in general. So has it shifted, for instance, people looking to move out of urban to areas like Brantford, where they, for their money, they can get a little bit more property, for instance, you know, instead of that 400 square foot condo. Are people still finding real estate as a sound investment? Are people looking at consumer attitudes, for instance? You know, do they feel safe going out, as Tim was saying earlier, and transacting with us? So that research will be released monthly for the foreseeable future, and you know, check that out. The first one is coming soon.
Very soon.
Very, very soon. More coming soon. Speaking of coming soon, we are bringing out a tech helpline to our members. So we know that many of us are working at home. I heard somebody on the call earlier talking about how this was their first Zoom meeting ever. So maybe we have some you know, transitional details to cover. Maybe the software issues are there, or we're having problems with our desktop during this time. And this is our primary link to the outside world right now, is our technology. So we're having that tech helpline available to our members shortly to assist you with those types of issues that may pop up. Another thing we've worked on with our members, as I was speaking about earlier, is mental health and financial planning support from Morneau Chappelle in a program called LifeWorks. So we'll be making that available to members as well if members feel they need to talk to somebody as they may be suffering with some mental health or anxiety issues during this time, or want a little additional help with financial planning through COVID-19. We're making that available to members soon as well. So many of you may have been down. Oh, sorry, Tim, if we can go back. Perfect.
Jump too fast there, yeah.
You're always ahead of me. So many of you may have been down at our reality conference down in Niagara Falls back in a different day, back in February, and seen some of our great speakers over there. So one of the things that we're doing during COVID-19 to bring you a little bit more information on how to deal with adjusting your business in this time is our Reality at Home series. So that'll be launching later in the summer into the fall, and that will give our reality speakers a chance to talk to you directly about how to adjust your business to COVID-19 and a post-COVID-19 world. One of the other things that we're doing for members is bringing Career Joy virtual workshops to you, which will help brokers and members basically deal in changing their business to COVID-19 and offer them some support moving forward in a series of webinars that you can, and webinars and virtual workshops that you can participate in. Those will be, I believe, recorded and also put on the OREA.com website. So this one I'm very proud of. So the OREA Board of Directors approved $480,000 worth of COVID-19 relief for stressed food banks and shelters out of their $5 million endowment to the charity, the Ontario Realtors Care Foundation, earlier this year for immediate release. And I'm happy to say a good chunk of that money has already gone to food banks and shelters and is being distributed, I know, in Brantford and surrounding areas as well. So it's nice to see that that money was put up for an express grant so that they could get that vital need taken care of in their communities. As we know, with supply chains disrupted and everybody staying at home, it's affecting us personally, but it's affecting shelters and food banks. They're actually at the brink. So it's nice to see that that donation going to good use in communities. And if you're curious about the ones that were donated in Brantford, you can contact your Brantford board about that. Now, as for the Ontario Real Estate College, we are obviously winding down that college. The deadline for closure of the college was supposed to be December of 2020. And as we're moving forward, we had to close the doors to the college for in-person exams and in-person classrooms. Online is still going on, but obviously we had to close it due to COVID-19. So Tim and Mohan and the rest of the college staff have been working very hard on a 3-point plan to ensure that no student is left behind due to COVID-19. So one of the things that we're doing is implementing live proctored online exams. This is a little more difficult than it seems on the surface. We have to ensure that somebody that's getting their license to help people with the greatest transaction of their life should be the person that is taking the exam, not somebody else. So we have to ensure that we can identify that student. We have to ensure that we identify the area that the students are working in to make sure there aren't people helping them or they're not referencing textbooks, etc. So that has to be monitored and proctored online properly, as well as locking up their cell phone to ensure that there's no cheating. Another thing that we're doing for the college is when we are resuming in-person exams, we're going to make sure we can administer and proctor as many online exams as we can, as well as in-person and iPad exams, so that every student that has the opportunity to write an exam has the opportunity to do it. As well, we're working with RICO and the government to extend the deadline for the closure beyond December 2020 and hopefully into March or April of next year. And we'll have more information as that becomes available on our COVID-19 info site, as well as OREA.com. Sorry if I can just get the next. I know you're trying there, Tim. Doesn't want to advance.
It's not advanced, eh? It's advanced on my screen.
Oh, there we go. I got it now. So it's actually where I'm switching over to you anyway, Tim, as we're talking about our advocacy efforts. I know you've been working hard with the staff at Queen's Park and also liaison with the Canadian Real Estate Association on our federal programs. So at this point, I'll turn it over to you to discuss a little bit about what OREA has been doing in our advocacy efforts and where we're going.
Yep, you bet. Thanks, Sean. And again, Sean and Brian and the board very active. As you can see here, picture of Sean Morrison as president, Karen Cox past president, speaking with Premier Ford. Really three baskets that were involved with, big part of my job and the board's as well. Number one is a national level. So we're partners with OREA in making sure that any of the national benefit programs, like the $2,000 a month if you've lost income and making less than $1,000, the 75% wage subsidy. You'll get into those later on, but we want to make sure that realtors in Ontario, brokers and team leaders have full, fair, and equitable access to those programs. We want to make sure that just because the real estate model is different, where you do the work, you firm up the deal, but you don't get paid 30, 60, 90 days later, that doesn't bias you out of these programs. You should have full and fair access as an independent contractor as any other Canadian business. We've had a lot of success on that, a bit more to do, but that's been a top job for us. Second is more in the Ontario realm. So here's our work as crises develop. You never know what kind of curveball is going to be thrown at you at this time. So we talked about open houses earlier on. That's been prohibited by the province as of April 3rd, following OREA's lead. Working with tenants is a super sensitive area right now. As you know, evictions have stopped and tenants will have various demands around showings of properties and their own concerns about their health and safety. An outcome of this, and I just sent a letter to Steve Clark, the Minister of Housing, yesterday as a follow-up. Mom and pop landlords, that may be some of you. It's gonna be your clients for sure. They're really in a jam here. So when Premier Ford did the right thing and he said, look, if you've got money to pay the rent, you pay the rent. If you have to choose between food for your family and paying the rent, you got to feed your family and work something with a landlord, and he stopped all the evictions. It makes sense. You don't want to kick somebody on the street during a pandemic, for goodness sakes, right? But it does mean that some mom and pop landlords are now holding the bag for expenses. They may be, one or two payments away from losing their investment. So we've called upon the province to do a program to help mom and pop landlords bridge through the crisis until the arrears are made up by tenants. Also, legal opinion will be going out shortly around realtors. May be an issue in Brantford. I've certainly seen it in the GTA, where some buildings are stopping realtors from doing showings. Realtors are able to do showings, and in return, realtors, of course, respect the tenants and look out for the building occupants. So if you have any problems with that, Sean has made personal calls, as have I, just to make sure that condo associations get it. We've actually liaised with the OREA equivalent as well with the condo managers, and they've sent out info to all of their members to say, yeah, realtors can do showings, you can't stop them. And number three is what's really around the fall. That's the final phase. How can real estate help Ontario's economic and confidence recovery? We're currently doing research on 3 areas. Number one is a land transfer tax holiday. How much that is, how long it lasts, we're going to pitch to government, but researching on that because, the huge impact that a real estate sale has in the economy, the new furniture, appliances, cleaning up the place, moving, renovations. Like if we really want an engine to pull Ontario's economy on the road to recovery, real estate is it. So land transfer tax holiday is one thing we're researching. Home renovation tax credit, because a lot of folks will be in their homes saying they need improvements. They've been maximized the stress test of living with all your family under one roof now for 10 weeks, 24/7. And the other area is speeding up the approval process for new housing to give more choice, more affordability in the marketplace. Okay, here was a happy day back in February. Many of you were there. Sean talked about it earlier on. There's Sean right there with the camera, David Oikler, president-elect out of Ottawa, celebrating because TRESA, the new real estate legislation, passed while we were having our conference in Niagara Falls at Reality, like live in person. A reminder, by the way, for those that were there for that magic moment, it passed with unanimous support. Everybody voted for it, all 4 parties, fantastic. We were hoping to get the first regulations stemming from that for July 1. That's the minister committed to. We met with her about a week and a half ago. And obviously that's not going to happen now because of COVID. But the good news is that the first regulations, including personal real estate corporations, she tells us will happen this year in 2020, as well as advertising guideline changes so you can use the term real estate agent or realtor in your ads. All right, so I'm going to walk through a little bit of government support programs. We're happy to come back in the Q&A. I won't go long on these, but they're updated regularly on our OREA COVID-19info.com website. The Canadian Emergency Response Benefit, that's for independent contractors, up to $2,000 a month, as long as you're not making more than $1,000. Wage subsidy, you do have to have a business account to get that for payroll. The temporary wage subsidy, less generous from the federal government. The business account, that's a interest-free loan repayable by December 31st, 2022. If you do, you keep $10,000. Again, you need a business account for that. There's also emergency commercial rent relief that landlords have to apply for. Program has some glitches with it, but at least it's on the table. And then you might want to let your clients know about these things because they look to you for advice on what's going on and how to put more money back in their own pocket. So electricity pricing relief is happening. We're all at the lowest time of use rate. Every kid in the province, their families are entitled to $200 each, $250 if they have special needs. They can defer OSAP repayals. The big banks, most banks have mortgage deferrals. Federal tax deferrals are available for business and personal. The auto insurance companies are doing rebates. They each have their own program because they're driving less. And then there's a student benefit because students are going to have a pretty tough job market. So again, that's all available on our website. You may want to send it out to your clients because you always have their back as well. All right, so now we're talking about what's happening on a go-forward basis as the province begins its unwinding process. This is a government document. It's their framework for reopening Ontario. Phase 1 is what we went through. That is now done. That was to shut everything down, state of emergency, business closures. Last week, Premier Ford launched phase 2, the restart. We're currently in stage 1. I do think this is funny. Only governments would have stages and phases in a plan. So we're in stage 1 of phase 2 for those keeping score at home. That means more businesses are opening, an expansion to those that were essential services, retail, recreation. So that's where we are now as of the past 5 days or so. Stage 2 was supposed to be about 2 weeks, depending on COVID cases. COVID cases have gone up the last, I think, 5 days running. So Premier Ford has said he may delay stage 2, which will probably mean the Brantford board office will likely be part of stage 2. We think that's where OREA will be. Stage 3 will be all the provinces, and phase 3 is the recovery. Okay, so we're at stage 1 of the reopening. So I'll hand this over now to Sean of what this means for you and your practice. Sean?
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, as the province starts to reopen at OREA, we have to look at, what does that mean for realtors across the province? We know that realtors are looking to associations like Brantford for guidance through this, and we want to be there for those associations and those members as well as to what this means for the reopening of real estate in the province. Although we've been able to transact, a lot of us have been, basically limiting our transactions or staying at home, as Tim was saying earlier. So this is a little bit of additional guidance for you as you start to return to the workplace as well. So our general reopening protocol is first and foremost, open houses are still prohibited in the province. We've had a couple of calls about open houses. Just to remind you and your members that open houses still are prohibited under the state of emergency currently. We're asking our realtors to use your digital tools first whenever you can. So let's limit the amount of time that we're spending inside people's properties by first maybe paring down some of the options digitally first before we go out and do face-to-face business. You should be talking to your clients about themselves and their families to find out where they've been. Do they have contact with anybody that may have had COVID-19, or do they work in a workplace where COVID-19 may have cropped up? We should know this going in before we put ourselves at risk going and showing face-to-face. Replacing the handshake, I think that goes without saying. Real estate's a relationship business. Often we're giving handshakes or hugs to our clients. In this time, we should refrain from doing that. For the listing realtors, making sure your clients clean and disinfect the home prior to any showing. Asking people to wear personal protective equipment when they're showing the house. This could be your masks and your gloves. Remain outside the home whenever possible. This is for listing realtors. I know there was some confusion around this when we put this out. We're not asking the buyer's agent to stay outside of the house. We know you have a fiduciary duty to go through the property with your clients. But if the listing realtor has to be there, say there's no lockbox or a situation like that to open the door, we ask that they remain outside the house when they can. Ensure the homeowners are not present. We don't want anyone to have any unnecessary risk by being present during a showing. Have all the lights on and all the doors open things like the door to the furnace room and the electrical panel so that people can see what they want to see without having to touch surfaces in the home. Again, ask them to limit their time within the house to maybe 15 or 20 minutes at the most and have those conversations outside. and your feature sheets and other digital documents that we normally would leave out for people to look through. Please try and use digital means on those. We can send those ahead of time so that we're not exchanging paper when they're showing the house. And of course, space out showings to allow you time to clean in between. Now for buyer's agents, meet the clients of the property. I know often we pick people up in our car and we go through together so that we can have those conversations in between showings, but let's meet our clients at the property and not have people in our car. That's shared air and we should avoid that. Again, wearing personal protective equipment whenever possible. If not, please have social distancing as part of that. I know that's difficult to do when showing houses, but that's why we have the PPE. Keep it quick inside the house. Go in, see the house, then move outside to have those conversations. We don't need to pause inside the house and have extensive conversations about it. Obviously, clean and sanitize your hands both before and after showing. Whether that be soap and water or a high alcohol hand sanitizer. If you're showing in a building, limit the number of people in an elevator. So we know elevators are tight spaces and again, shared air. So, limit it to 1 to 2 people of the same household in the elevator, and that may mean multiple trips up and down. Limit the numbers at the showing to the people that are just parties to the transaction. If possible, if they cannot bring their children along or family members for an opinion, limit it to just the people that are going to be party to the transactions, so that we're limiting the numbers of people that are being exposed. Obviously, don't use the bathroom and refrain from touching any surfaces that you can. So this is how we can stay connected through all of this. And at OREA, we always value our member feedback. For those of you that may have already gone on and viewed one of our podcasts and listened in, we do one every month. And right now we're doing a lot on COVID-19. Our last one that was released at the beginning of this month, we had a mortgage professional on there talking about how you can have your mortgages and how they're being affected through COVID-19. We also have OREA's research panel, and we would really like to see more members of Brantford on this panel. We're currently about 2,600 realtors across the province on that panel. This is where we have it's very short. It's not very time consuming. I think the longest one we've had today is about 10 minutes to fill out. But this is where we get a lot of our grassroots research from our members that help influence the decisions at the board table. So we want you to have say in your future of the profession. So please go on joinorearesearch.com and sign up for our research panel. As many of you know, we're doing a large member consultation, in fact, the largest in our history. And we want everyone here to be part of that. This is on the new OREA products and services that we're doing with our $10 to $15 million surplus that we had available through the big spike we had in the college. So if you go to neworeaservices.com, we'd love to get your feedback on what you think the profession needs and what you need in your own daily business to continue to work as the professionals that we are. This will go directly back to the board of directors through our consultants, and it will form part of our standard or strategic planning session. And then lastly, we have our standard forums and webinars that I mentioned earlier. There's a ton of stuff on there. They're always recorded, so you can continue to listen to them even if you miss them. So again, that's available at OREA.com. So with that, I just want to thank you all for participating in today's webinar, and Tim and I are happy to take any questions as we move forward. But here's how you can contact us if you think of a question after the fact, or you have an idea you want to share with us, or some critique. We'd be happy to hear from you. So again, these are where you can find us. And with that, I will open it up for questions.
Mr. Odie, do I see you waving your hand?
No, I just wanted to say thank you to Tim and Sean for taking their time to join us today and fill us in. Keep doing the great work OREA's doing. I'm a little biased to that, of course, as we all know. But you keep at it, guys. Great. Thank you so much for everything.
Well, thank you very much, John. And for many of you that don't know, John is actually our builder liaison who at OREA, who basically works between the Builders Association and OREA to make sure we're aligning our message. So thank you for your years of service on the OREA board, John, but thank you again for continuing to volunteer your time and step up to work with our realtor and builder partners.
Thank you. All right, guys, so if you do have any questions, just under your participants tab, select the raise hand option and I'll call on you. If you're feeling a little shy, go ahead and type it in the chat. I see Mr. Ray Patro has his hand up.
Yeah, you know I do, Rose. Good morning, everybody. Thanks, guys, from OREA for popping in on our Zoom call this morning. It's less of a question, more of a comment to Sean Morrison. How's this for a curveball during your presidency?
Definitely not the presidency I planned for, but it's the one I got. And, you know, I'm a very social person. For me not to be there shaking hands and talking to you all face to face is really difficult, doing it through a computer. But we're adapting like you in our everyday business. And, you know, I'm thankful to have this opportunity and to be able to meet everybody virtually at this point. And I hope one day I'll actually be able to be there and give you that handshake in the future. But I appreciate that, Ray. It's like I say, it's not what we planned for, but we're working away. We've got a great team at OREA, so it's making it easier. That's for sure.
Yeah, we'll hug soon, buddy.
Definitely.
Oh my God. So there was a question that came in the chat from Vanessa. Just to clarify, we are still unable to take any form of exam, and Tim did answer that we'll be online in June. We're just working out a few things. So
we did a dry run yesterday, as a matter of fact, Rose, with my staff, checking out the security features that Sean had described and all that. So it's coming along quite well. We expect to have that ready to go.
Perfect. It's amazing how fast you guys are adapting to all of this. Oh.
No, I think
Tim cutting out?
Tim there. You're cutting in and out again, Tim. No, as Tim was saying, we're beta testing it right now, and we're happy to be bringing it forward as soon as we can. And Rose, thank you for your comments on the speed. I know it seems slow to some people, especially those taking the courses right now, but we just have to make sure that we get it right. It would be way worse to roll something out and it was glitchy and frustrating for students. So we're in that part now, and we should see it sometime in June.
And a lot of that, Rose, we've had some very good meetings with Rico. We've not finalized anything yet, but we've asked for the extension because we don't want anybody rushing through, cramming, all that kind of stuff. So we've asked for an extension to Sean outlined until March of next year. So anyway, some positive signals happening there.
Perfect. And on the note of education, you mentioned in the presentation that Leadership 200 is being offered online now, and I think you're offering that for free. Is there anything in the works for Leadership 300? I know some of our directors are still waiting. We're planning on taking that at CREA or other places. Know if that's coming our way?
Similarly, we're looking at that, like how we can, 300 is a bit more involved, a bit more interaction. So we're looking to see how can we do an online version of that, Rose. It's a great question. So my team is currently investigating that. Nothing to announce, but we're looking at how we can do that.
Perfect. And just so everybody knows, the board of directors just passed last week that we are making a donation. We were talking about the Realtor grant, the Realtor Care grant in your presentation. So we did just decide that we are donating $5,000 to the local food bank. And of course, that suggestion came from our members through a previous Zoom meeting that they really needed the help. So that is coming down the pipeline. We're just waiting on that as well. Does anybody have any other questions? No? What about the Northern Director position, guys? I have a burning question.
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Year in a row that OREA Board of Directors has decided not to fill that vacancy. Any insight onto why that would be so early in the term, or are there any concerns about the representation of the North?
Well, no, because as we have our directors at large across the province, as well as myself, the president-elect and past president, who can always be there with the northern directors and answer the northern boards and answer their questions. With this, it was actually a happy time. So Ashley Sauvé, who was our northern director this year, who was filling the balance of the 2-year term, so she had a 1-year term essentially, became the CEO of Sudbury. So as part of their rules and regulations, she can't be an active realtor, and you need to be an active realtor to be on the OREA Board of Directors, which opened up the vacancy in the position. the board had a good and fulsome discussion about filling that position. We had about 7.5 to 8 months left in the term. And they felt that it was better to do it by democratic ways, so to allow those people in the north to select their own representative rather than us appoint one at that point. Plus, during COVID-19, we're meeting by Zoom. We're not doing a lot of in-person things that would require that director to be out and be physically present with the boards. So we felt that as a board that it didn't need to be filled at this point. And I'm happy to report there's been a lot of chatter about from people in the north about running for the position. So I think we're going to have a solid election coming up at the next AGM and fill that position. So I understand from the outset it looks bad. The second time in a row that somebody's had to leave that position, but you know, they are very well represented.
Out of that, Rose, I did suggest as CEO to the board that we could move Brantford into Northern Ontario. And, you know, that way we get John Odie back on the board, or you, Rose, you know, it'd be some pretty good quality candidates.
I was just curious. I saw that come through. I'm like, what the heck? A good reason this time, a good reason. She moved on to something pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So any last remarks before we let you get back to real life? Because I don't see any other questions coming in. It was a very thorough presentation.
Well, appreciate that, Rose. No, we're just very happy to be here with Brantford today and to continue on our good relationship of communication back and forth. We thank you all for taking time out of your days to be here. I know many of us want to be out in the sunshine. I'm looking at it through my window in front of me. So, you know, I really do appreciate it. John wants to go fishing. Clearly, he's showing us there. So we'll let him get back to fishing. But thank you again and again. As we put up that last slide, if you have any questions or comments, Tim and I and the OREA team are always available to you guys at Brantford for sure. Tim, any parting words?
Yeah, I'll just say one thing real quick, and then if Brian is our area director wants to wrap her up, just I want to say, Rose, I just think that the Brantford board does an awesome job. I'm always impressed by your work in the public sphere, how much you're always out there talking to the community, getting involved. Just talked about your grant in my 3 years plus now. I just want to say I think you're one of the leading boards, and thank you for having us back on here today.
Thank you for coming. Brian.
Cool. Yeah, awesome. Thanks everyone for being on this call. It's so important to be engaged and see what's coming down the pipeline. It makes you a better realtor, knowing what's there. So thank you for that. And yeah, we're going to keep in touch. Sean mentioned communication is important. I think that's essential now more than ever, just because this whole situation is changing day by day, week by week. So it's going to continue to evolve, and keep informed of what's happening. Things are going to be changing. And if anything comes up, you have any ideas or questions or suggestions, by all means, reach out to the OREA board. I love the message we have. It's we have your back, and we're here for you. So anything, just let us know. And yeah, great job, Brantford. Like the more I hear about you guys, the more impressed I am, inclusive of that donation to the food bank. Good on you guys for stepping up. That's awesome.
And again, thank you, Sean, Tim, Brian, for coming out today. I'll have someone coming in here. Knowledge is king here. So, you know, I'm really happy to see more and more people logging into these Zoom meetings and getting that knowledge. So what I'm going to let you guys do is log off and get back to real life. And then I'll open it up to the membership if they want to bug me with any questions about OREA and what we're doing.
Great. Sounds good.
Thanks, guys. Take care. Nice seeing you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.